All right, Gearheads, welcome to the show. Max Verstappen wins the Italian Grand Prix and mathematically can wrap up the championship in the next race. Wow. This is John Massengale, and I'm in Austin, Texas, in my home studio today. And Bob Varsha is joining me over Zoom. Les Kaiser's in the studio, and we're going to have Chris Medland from the Monza circuit shortly. Mr. Varsha, what did you think of the race? I see you're on mute before you even try to answer, but what did you think of the race?
How did you know I was on mute? Actually, I thought it was rather boring. Unfortunately, we thought we would see the fast guys coming through the field. They did, some better than others, but there was no stopping Max Verstappen and Red Bull once again. What they're doing is just phenomenal. 11th victory and 5th in a row for Max Verstappen, something he's never done before. Won at Monza, something he's never done before. So, it's all looking his way. I think if the numbers line up, he can clinch the world championship at the next race in Singapore. So kudos to them. Ferrari, I question their tire strategy in this race, getting off the soft so early for Charles Leclerc. And then going with the medium instead of the hard. It was just confusing. And then, of course, nobody likes a race that finishes under caution. I think just as in Abu Dhabi last year, race directors should have thrown a red flag. Just stop the action, preserve the remaining laps, and organize a green flag finish. It could have happened then, and it could have happened today, but, it just didn't.
Yeah, that was sad, honestly, to watch a race finish under the safety car like that. I mean, you could hear it in the drivers on the radio. It was just really not what anybody wants. Les, I guess, would you agree with that?
Absolutely, without a doubt. The whole checkered finish, we want it under green flag situation. And, we've, one of the things that comes up, some of the other racing bodies will do a green flag, requires to run a green flag lap to finish the race or what have you. I really think that's something that ought to be instilled in the F1 race, as well as, I agree with Bob's call on this should have been red flagged. Just that close to the end, let's finish it under green. It could have changed the results, possibly. I don't know that George could have made that much ground, but it certainly would have added a little more excitement, having gone through that and having that challenge right at the end.
Yeah, no doubt. It's not what anybody wants. So we'll see how if that could ever happen, Les. But let me just take a look here. So Max Verstappen, followed by Charles Leclerc, as we talked about. George Russell on the podium in third, followed by Carlos Sainz, Lewis Hamilton in fifth, Sergio Perez, Lando Norris, Pierre Gasly, and Nyck De Vries in ninth, scoring points. That's awesome. And Zhou Guanyu in 10th, Esteban Ocon, Schumacher in 12th, Valtteri Bottas, Yuki Tsunoda, Nicholas Latifi, Kevin Magnussen in 16th, Ricardo all the way down to 17th, Lance Stroll, Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Vettel didn't finish the race. And I think that was the first time ever for this year, for Lance Stroll not to finish the race, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
I believe that's right. Yeah, and maybe the first time he's failed to finish at Monza too, which is perhaps his best track on the calendar.
Well, I'm going to up the excitement on the show because I'm going to tell everybody that we're going to give away a pair of tickets to the Formula One United States Grand Prix right here in Austin, Texas during today's show at some point. So stay tuned for that. What'd you think about Nyck De Vries just, for the weekend, Bob?
Well, I think he did a great job. I said before the race, I wondered why he did not seem to be on teams' lists of potential drivers for any open seats, despite his glittering record of winning in Formula Renault Euro Cup, for F2, and the Formula E World Championship. He was the first Formula E World Champion once the series was declared a championship. He did a great job today in an unfamiliar car, scored a couple of points on debut, which is a rarity. The last to do it was Zhou Guanyu, who did it back in Bahrain, but to have two drivers do that in one season is probably a bit of a statistical nugget. But yeah, I think he did a great job. And if you listen to the end of the broadcast, you heard him say, "My shoulders are dead." We hear this time and time again. No matter what kind of racing you do, you get into a Formula One car and it just beats you up. They are just that capable. They stop, they turn, they accelerate, and the driver takes the punishment. It's a real physical effort. Max Verstappen said it was hot out there today. So yeah, they had several challenges to deal with, and De Vries did a great job.
Yeah, and of course, Daniel Ricciardo out of the race also with an engine problem right there at the end that caused all that safety car issue.
Yeah.
Sad for Daniel Ricciardo. He's had a great qualifying, or excuse me, I guess really good qualifying and ended up in a great grid position, but that's a little bit sad for him. But what about Carlos Sainz, man? He had a fantastic race. It looks like Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton tied for the best positional change. They both moved up 14 spots, with Sainz finishing 4th and 5th. But he looked great, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did. And kudos to Lewis Hamilton too. We saw an exciting moment there when he passed 2 drivers in the Curva Grande, which is a really intimidating corner, I can tell you. And you are, as just about everywhere else at Monza, flat out, full throttle, aim that car and hope you made the right decision when you get to the braking zone for the chicane.
Yeah. Everything's going right for Red Bull really right now. I mean, clearly with the championship basically in the bag in both constructors and drivers, Checo had, and the team is just like a well-oiled machine. He had a blistering 2.1 second pit stop on lap 43. Yeah, that was I think that's close to the fastest we've seen this year. I think we talked about that. They're not quite as fast as they have been because of the rule changes, but a fantastic just overall for everything for Red Bull.
A bizarre brake fire though for Sergio, when the right front caught fire. I don't know if they had blockage in the brake cooling duct or what. It's a predominantly right-hand turn, so the right front wheel is unloaded much of the time. Maybe the brake had to work too hard on that unloaded front tire. I don't know what the physics of that might have been, but that was weird. And then it went away.
Yeah. All right, it looks like we have Chris Medland joining us live from Monza. Chris, how's it going?
It's going good. How is everyone after, what was it, 47 laps of racing and 6 laps of not racing?
Yeah, we were just talking about how disappointing that was to end under safety car.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because that is exactly how the rules are written. That's exactly how it has to end if you're playing it safe and you're trying to make sure that you don't have guys flying around when there's a crane on track. But at the same time, it's not how anyone wants the race to end. And it brings up Abu Dhabi, doesn't it, from last year, where to avoid this, the rules weren't properly followed. So not sure what we make of that.
Yeah, I think that was running through everybody's head. It's like we don't want this to finish, but we also want to follow the rules. But yeah, hey, Chris, I loved your tweet when Hamilton passed Alonso, where you said showing he can indeed race when not starting from the front. That was good.
Yeah, I just thought I'd remind Fernando of that comment. I mean, he did backtrack on it later on, but it was something that Alonso said, was definitely not true and all that, and heat at the moment. But I wondered what he was thinking when Lewis appeared in his mirrors, having collided the last time they went wheel to wheel.
A little bit of crow.
Yeah. So were you guys watching like me? I guess we were, 21, 20, maybe 23 laps in, and Max is still running around on soft tires. And I guess Russell had pitted just before him. But I thought, wow, how long is he going to go on these tires? And
on the soft,
on the soft tires to start the race. I mean, the car looks so balanced. It didn't surprise me, huh, Bob?
No, not one bit. And I too was surprised at how long. The pylon on the left side of the television screen shows you what tires everybody are on. And after the pit stops, everybody was on hards, a couple of mediums, and then the one guy who was on softs and kept lapping was Max Verstappen. So some combination of that great car and great driver just make an unbeatable combination.
Absolutely. One of the things talking about around lap 21. Lap 22, when Leclerc's told to go to plan C, we're going to plan C. There was definitely a pronounced improvement in pace. And when he started just, clicking off more and more better laps. And so, I was curious what that exactly was. Whatever it was the right call.
Yeah, Ferrari today, we didn't have a debacle. I know, Bob, you were talking about it wasn't a perfect strategy day for Ferrari. But what I found fascinating was the fact that Ferrari kept asking their drivers. They were saying, we're going to do this. Do you think that's okay? We're going to do that. Do you think that's okay? I don't know. I don't, unless it's Kimi Räikkönen, you surely shouldn't be asking your drivers what they're doing.
Because nobody else knows what they're doing.
Exactly.
I'm actually kind of mixed on that. I'm okay. I mean, I think it's a way of, having that dialogue and saying, hey, we want to, we're thinking we're going to do this. Do you agree? Or, I'm okay with them collecting an agreement. Earlier in the season, we heard them basically asking, what do you want to do? Tell me what you're seeing on data and let's validate it and let's go forward. But just to throw it out there, asking me what I want to do. No.
All right, guys, we are going to, after this, we're going to continue to break down the race. We're going to get more from Chris at Monza live to get us interviews and updates from Monza, and we'll be back after these.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM.
The Speed City F1 post-race show on SiriusXM is brought to you by CrowdStrike. Stop today's most sophisticated cyber attacks at the office, the racetrack, and everywhere in between. Learn more at crowdstrike.com/XM. I want to give out the phone number. We want to get some audience participation here across the United States and Canada. The number is 512-643-5483. Give us a call and tell us what you thought of the race today. Anything you want to talk about. You want to talk about the Porsche situation, Andretti, whatever you want to talk about. But we do have a comment. I believe this one came from YouTube. TW says, George's uniform looks a size or two too small. Bob, we were talking during the break. You always like to check that out, right?
Well, yeah, I find it curious. Everybody has their own preferences, of course, but we've seen everything from the sublime to the ridiculous. I mean, Nico Rosberg always wore sort of skin tight driver suits, which you can understand, for, you don't want to get your caught up in extra folds of cloth or whatever the reason might be. But Nico wore a very tight one. George Russell wears a very tight one. The other end of the spectrum was Jacques Villeneuve, the 97 world champion for Williams. He used to wear a suit that you just couldn't believe. They could put another person in that suit with him. He wore it so loose. He would step into the car and then pull up these folds of material through the crotch and down his legs and, kind of bundle himself up and then slip down into the car to go racing. It's wild. But I got a Max Verstappen stat that just came from our friend Sean Kelly, and this tells you something about the Dutchman. Monza was the last track on the calendar at which Verstappen had never podiumed. He is now podiumed and usually won at every track on the calendar.
Oh, that's
which is pretty phenomenal.
Max is going to start stacking up that type of statistic, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. They're going to have to keep inventing new races to give him somewhere else to go conquer.
Hey, Chris Medland, I want to just get your eyes and ears real quick. What's going on?
I am just watching Mattia Binotto explain the race that Ferrari have had to the Italian media and seeing if I can stick my microphone in there in a second. As you can imagine, we're in Monza. We do not have priority here. So it's the Italian press. They're all having a chat with him right now, but going to see if there's time to just ask you a question or two once he's finished explaining what's going on there.
Yeah, our friend Paul Bryan on YouTube says, why ask the driver? If you were talking about driver team radio, it says, if you're Binotto under a microscope at home, it says that buys you some plausible deniability.
There you go. Good call.
Yeah.
Somebody to blame. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. It just feels weird to me. It just sounded weird. I mean, yeah, Les, to your point, I agree that it's not unreasonable to ask the driver, especially if you're trying to get feedback or something, but still. But guys, what else about today's race? I was just looking at the finish. Oh, I think sounds like we may have Chris with something. No, maybe not. Just looking down the grid, we talked about Russell and Hamilton having a good race, but what about our friend Lando Norris? Bob, I heard he finished 7th.
Yeah, I think there was more potential there than Lando was able to get out of the car. I mean, he was getting past, had a terrible start for whatever reason.
Yep.
Very, very slow on the getaway. The anti-stall kicked in. I don't know if he was in the wrong gear or some kind of wrong engine setting, but yeah, terrible getaway. Lost 3 or 4 positions right off the start. Not a good day, I think, for McLaren, especially losing an engine, as Daniel Ricciardo did. We mentioned this is a track where you're flat on the throttle probably 3/4 of the time you're on the track. So that makes it a bit of an engine killer. And we saw a couple of engines fail, or perhaps approach failing. You know, they called Alonso in without telling him why and retired the car. I suspect they saw a coming engine failure. And you don't want to let those situations play themselves out, because then, you know, you lose an engine from your pool if the result is catastrophic. And then you're going into, you know, more engines and more penalties. And I think Alonso has used more internal combustion engines than anybody. I think he's on his 6th as opposed to the 3 you're allowed. So yeah, it was the typically tough Monza when it comes to engine life.
One of the other things that I learned on that topic is that sometimes when the engine fails, it can kind of trickle through the drivetrain and cause other issues and failures.
Sure.
And so it can compound itself, and that's why often they're so immediate in getting things shut down right there, so it doesn't take out subsequent pieces.
Yeah, engine survival mode is in the software.
Brian on YouTube asked a really good question. He said, "Did De Vries earn himself a possible seat next season somewhere?" I mean, he obviously had a fantastic weekend.
Oh, absolutely. I'd be surprised if Williams doesn't make him an offer right away. He is a Mercedes guy, so he would have to step away from Mercedes if his contract allows that, in order to race for, say, an Alpine or whomever. But as a Mercedes guy, Williams looks like a real good possibility for him. I don't know whether there's another Mercedes opening, to be honest.
Bob, somebody asked, what do you mean by that?
By
saying he's a Mercedes guy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, he's under contract. All of these teams that have young driver development programs signed them to contracts, which has all sorts of stipulations about who has options, how long it lasts, what do you get paid, you know, all of the sorts of things that you include in a contract. And we saw what can happen earlier this year when Oscar Piastri, who had a junior contract with Alpine/Renault, but then somehow the T's didn't get crossed and the I's dotted, and he stepped away from that contract when he and his legal advisors said Alpine had not lived up to it. It was over, and he signed a deal with McLaren, probably a conditional one, so McLaren could protect themselves by saying, okay, in the event that you become available, we're paying you now to be your first choice for a potential seat. He signs that and off he goes. And I think that's what the Contract Recognition Board looked at last week when they said, okay, he's free to go join McLaren because Alpine's option was not properly exercised. So yeah, all of these things are governed by contract. They are very complicated, very long. And it's why every young driver, sad to say, I suppose, needs very good representation.
Sorry to cut you off there, Bob, as we
stuff.
talk about representation. I mean, Toto Wolff's with me here, and he's someone who knows about driver contracts. I won't ask you about the Oscar Piastri situation this time. Toto, before the race, you said that it might be tough to be in the fight for the win. It looks that way, but you also said things went Lewis's way, he could be top 5. And he looked like he was going to do that even without the safety cars. So how happy are you with the result today?
Yeah, once he got going, he was really strong. You can see that there's a big gap from the first three teams to the midfield, and that's why he's great driving, and the car was good under his hands. He was able to recover. So it's really, I'm pleased to see that.
Yeah, and we've seen this car be up and down. We've heard the drivers some Fridays be really disappointed with it. But do you feel you're finding some Sunday consistency where you are closing that gap even at circuits that don't suit the car?
I don't think we have closed the gap to Verstappen, and this is the one that we need to look at. But I hope that in the next few races, the simulation said it should be coming towards us. We can do.
And obviously, you took a power unit penalty here with Lewis. I mean, is everything now cleared to the end of the season? Hopefully, is it going to be that you can go and attack every race remaining?
We are going to go flat out every race, try to maximize the points.
And speaking of going flat out, we didn't get that in the closing stages of that race. It did finish on the safety car. We've seen scenarios where that didn't happen in the past. What was your view of the way the race ended?
I think they followed the rules to the dot. There was a tractor out on track with people. That's why they didn't let overtake, because it's still dangerous cars overtaking when marshals are out there. And there wasn't enough time to finish the race under free. And that's the rules. And everything else, like, why not a red flag? Well, a red flag is only when somebody's in the wall and is injured, or the track is blocked. None of that was the case. So proper application of the regulations.
And are you happy with those regulations staying that way? Or do you think from Formula One's point of view, maybe they should try and always find a way of making sure it's a racing finish?
I think we all like racing to finish. I'd love to see a lap or two and see how the mayhem unfolds. But then we need to change the regulations, and I'm up for it.
Okay, and just finally, you mentioned it just now, Singapore. How confident are you of being strong there? Is that what we could see? You know, is pole in the wind going to be the target heading there?
Well, like the last 10 years, I was never confident. So I'm even less confident at the moment.
Oh, we're hoping for an optimistic point, but never mind. Toto, thanks for your time.
Yeah, Toto, it's been a tough year for Toto, really predicting. But hey, guys, we gotta squeeze a break in. But when we come back, we'll continue to talk about the Formula One Italian Grand Prix after this. All right, gearheads, welcome to the show. Max Verstappen wins the Formula One Italian Grand Prix and his fifth consecutive race. And he even has mathematically a chance to wrap up the championship in, 3 weeks' time? We have a couple weeks off. But yeah, it was another dominant performance from Max Verstappen. This is John Massengale sitting in my studio at home in Austin, Texas. And I'm joined by Bob Varsha and Les Kaiser and Chris Medland, who is at Monza. But Bob, Max Verstappen, and we talked about it a little bit, but the dominance of Red Bull and Max right now is just crazy.
Yeah, it is. Coming from seventh on the grid, he just plowed right through the field, picking up places left, right, and center. And, it says something. If you're able to survive the first chicane on lap one, we saw some contact, nobody out on the spot, but Max was able to get a healthy car through there and then just start picking people off and stayed on that soft tire that he started on, that soft Pirelli, way into the race, way beyond everybody else, which says so much about the balance and the performance of the car and the driver. And they accomplished so much. This is the last track that Max had yet to score a podium on. It was a way above Red Bull's average performance at Monza over the years. They just accomplished so much today. And as you say, he's now in position to clinch the championship at Singapore in the next round of the championship if everything goes his way. But a lot of other good races for people. I mean, once again, George Russell finishes in the top 5, no matter where he starts.
Yeah.
15th time in 16 races, George has done that. Toto Wolff predicted before the race on our air that he thought, if Lewis could get to 5th, that would be a great finish for him. That's exactly what Lewis went out and did. So here we have all these different things coming together. There'll be nobody stopping Max Verstappen, who will take a historic second championship this year, it appears. But Mercedes is back in the mix. Ferrari is fast if they can just figure out how to manage their races we could have a great, 3-team race-to-race championship the rest of the way.
Yeah, not a complete disaster for Ferrari. Les Kaiser, would you agree that Ferrari had at least a reasonable day at the strategy wheel today?
Absolutely. This looks more like what we expect from Ferrari. Certainly in Italy, at least if anybody got garden duty, they had a short walk home. But I think that stayed off this week, and so I'm going to say, thumbs up, keep it going up, and we should see a solid performance the rest of the year if this is a sign of what strategy is doing.
Yeah,
this was a consecutive podium finish for Charles Leclerc, and he hadn't done that since the first 3 races of the year. So, perhaps Ferrari is gradually righting the ship.
You mean back when Charles Leclerc was leading the championship by like 40 points? Bob?
Yeah, right. When everybody thought Charles was going to run away with it, break up Ferrari. Yeah.
Yeah, we all said, oh, it's going to be a Ferrari dominance year. Well, it turns out to be the exact opposite for Ferrari, and a huge happened. But we had some other, Bob, you were talking earlier about, it wasn't the most exciting race, but it definitely kept us busy during the meat of the race. Lots of things going on. We had some interesting pit stop strategies, and watching Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton come up 14 spots to finish 4th and 5th. That was exciting to watch. And we did not finish the race. It really caught me off guard. We've seen good reliability from Alpine, I think, this year, but having seen Alonso retired, and I had some high expectations for him because where he ended up starting after the grid penalties too.
Yeah, well, it was not at all a good weekend for Alpine, finishing with neither car in the points. Alonso retired, and Ocon finished out of the top 10. So, that ongoing battle with McLaren for 4th in the championship and the tens of millions of dollars that it brings with it is going to bubble the rest of the way because, neither team did especially well today, but at least McLaren got a few points out of the weekend, whereas Alpine did not.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention the passing of the Queen. It was a hugely important thing to Formula One, just because I think most of the grid is based in the London area, and it was some definite. I think they did a moment of silence and some good tributes from the teams themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people that follow Formula One also would be interested in that. And we have some Europhiles and that type of thing. So we definitely wanted to mention that. But looks like we've got Chris Medland back on the call. Chris, just touching base. What's happening out there?
Hello. Well, I'm sorry I disappeared briefly. It was during the break. I managed to grab Jost Capito, the Williams team principal, who was very, very happy with Nyck De Vries and his performance. And now I'm hovering between 2 more team principals, and neither of them are ready to talk to me. But we've got Andreas Seidl and Christian Horner just waiting. I'm afraid I missed out on Mattia Bonotto because, half of Italy showed up. And if I spoke Italian, we could have had an interview with him, but I don't. So sadly, we might have to wait to see if we can get him a bit later on. But it's a busy paddock in here where most people I've seen so far are happy. I don't know if this is just where people who are in a good mood are coming, but there's a lot of happy faces. Obviously, Christian Horner now doing his interviews is got a smile on his face after Max's performance, and Andreas Seidl as well, with the fact that as much as I know we touched upon the disappointment of Ricciardo's penalty or retirement, should I say, the drive from Norris and the points with Alpine not scoring were important. So still a good result for McLaren, especially with Alonso out of the picture. I think it's kind of that evened it up a bit, didn't it?
I know why everybody's smiling, because they know they got a couple of weekends off coming up. They don't have to race off to another Grand Prix somewhere.
Yeah, we've all got a couple of weekends off. Just after a summer break, we've had a triple header, and now we're all talking about time off. But Christian Horner won't want any time off because 5 wins in a row for Max Verstappen. It doesn't matter where he starts, he seems to have it covered, and the team seems to take advantage of every opportunity too. How pleased are you with the way the whole outfit's performing?
I think the whole team's working at an incredible level, and we got the calls right today. It was frustrating with Checo picking up a flat spot early on because that put him out of sync because we saw a level of vibrations that were getting very dangerous. So that's why we changed onto the hard early on. But he again had great pace. So, we had the race under control. I think everybody was robbed of that last 2-lap shootout. But, I think we need to understand why that happened and work, because this goes against the principles of what we've always talked about. So, hopefully lessons can be made from that.
I was going to say, obviously, it did favour you in the sense that Max didn't come under threat, but you were looking forward to having a fight for those final couple of laps if we could get going again.
Well, we always want to win, under racing conditions, and it felt like, I think Max would have had it under control, but it was enough time to get racing again, and it felt like the wrong car was perhaps picked up by the safety car, and then it took more time to sort out, and they just ran out of time. So, it was frustrating for the fans, and the race is in us. We want to win under racing conditions, not safety car, which I believe we would have done.
And do you think that's something where maybe red flags are needed in the final few laps of a race to make sure we get a racing finish? What would you propose to make sure that happens?
I think there was, we need to look at why it took so long to get going again, because that took too long to restart in what looked like, there was no damage to the car. It was, not in a barrier or anything like that. So, lessons to learn.
And just a couple more. One, Checo had a fire on the front right brake disc, it looked like, during that pit stop. Was that correct? Was that the issue? And were you concerned how bad it got?
It looked like some debris got into the brake duct and on the right front. And it took a couple of laps for it to burn itself out. And the temperatures went through the roof. And then thankfully started to come back under control. But, he drove a great race. His pace was strong in the race. And he was unlucky with the safety car at the end that he didn't get a chance to attack Lewis. Because we think he would have had the pace to do it today.
Yeah, I think he's still got the fastest lap, though, so another point there. And if we look at the overall picture, Max now mathematically, I believe, can win the title next time out in Singapore. I mean, how amazing is that, the way this season started? And will you be getting the T-shirts printed already?
No, look, Max is in incredible form. He's walking on water at the moment. And I think that, to win five in a row, despite 2 grid penalties in the last 3 races, is a phenomenal performance. So, we're just going to keep attacking each race, and then championship tables tend to take care of themselves.
Well, it's a lot calmer finish the season than last year, at least for you. But Christian, well done today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, Red Bull's Christian Horner there, like I said, with a smile on his face, and now a bit sunburned, so I'm kept him standing in the sun.
There you go. Hey, Chris, one of the things that one of the TV commentators mentioned is it appeared that the gearbox was locked on Daniel Ricciardo's, and that's why they couldn't clear the track so quickly.
Yes, I think it was the engine had seized, or the gearbox wouldn't go to neutral, but it's because they needed the crane. That's why they had to go full safety car rather than VSC. And once you do that, you need to get all of the cars bunched up behind the safety car, which is where Christian's point comes in, that he thinks they didn't do that very efficiently and maybe picked up the wrong car originally, because we saw, didn't we, late on, cars being sent past and then they picked Max up at Ascari. So part of that will come from them trying to act so quickly and trying to get restarted, and then by rushing almost, maybe they picked up the wrong car or made a bit of a mistake. So I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect answer for scenarios like that. You just don't want a car stopping that late in the race, and you have to follow certain protocols to be safe. But we'll have to see if there's anything that can be learned from that. And I've talked long enough to grab Andreas Seidl as he walks back to the McLaren motorhome. Andreas, we were just talking about Daniel's retirement. So firstly, what was the issue there?
Daniel reported that he lost the engine. I think we had an oil leak. In terms of details, we need to wait now until the car is back to understand what it is actually.
But it was a strong drive from him as well. That must have been really frustrating, given that he was on for points and you were on for double points.
Yeah, now, of course, mixed feelings, I would say, after this race. Obviously, a shame that we couldn't score the points with Daniel he deserved after a strong weekend. But on the positive side, I think it was good to see that he had such a strong weekend. It was good to see that we had good pace also today in these warm conditions on the low downforce track. Lando had a good race as well. That's positive. We still could score good points for the Constructors' Championship, more than our main competitor. So we take the positive with us, analyze everything that we have seen the last 3 weeks, and then try to come back even stronger in Singapore.
Is Singapore a track you think will suit you? Because, as you mentioned, we saw Daniel go very well here last year, but then still struggle at tracks after that. Are you hoping that this is a springboard for him and the team can be strong there too?
Yeah, I hope so. I'm looking forward to Singapore, because when we look at similar tracks that we have been this year, like Monaco or Budapest, we actually were always in a position on one lap to even battle with the Mercedes cars. And also in the races, we always have been, I think, fourth strongest team. So we will not give up this battle for P4 in the Constructors' Championship. We expect to be stronger there as well again, and let's battle it out.
And just finally, a word on Lando, because we didn't really talk about it too much, but a solid race from him. I mean, how pleased have you been with his consistency, and how important could those points be come the end of the year?
No, very happy with how his race went, because it was not a straightforward race. He had the issue at the start, which you need to analyze, lost a lot of positions, and one of the pit stops wasn't that great today, which put him straight into traffic, losing positions. But he was always coming back. He kept it cool, which just shows how far he's already as a driver and how complete he also is. Maximizing everything that was possible today from his side, and that was also very encouraging to see.
And I promised the last one, because I'm sure the guys want to go for a break and you want to get back into the motorhome. But the way the race finished, what was your kind of opinion on finishing behind the safety car? Do you think that's just going to have to be something we accept in Formula One, that races can end that way? Or would you like to see regulations change so that we never have to finish without seeing a racing finish?
Well, we discussed that many months in many meetings between all teams and FIA Formula One after the, let's say, everything that happened last year in Abu Dhabi. We didn't come up with a better solution. We all agreed, let's keep it like it is. Therefore, let's not even go into the discussion anymore. We need to accept it can happen, which is not nice, but in the end, safety first all the time. Unfortunately, it took longer today to get Daniel's car off the track than expected, and that's why we have to accept that it ended like this.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that one. So, Andreas, thank you very much for your time. See you in Singapore. There we go. Sorry about that, chaps. You've just had to hear my voice or someone else's voice for far too long, haven't you?
No, that's fantastic, Chris.
No problem.
And speaking of that, coming up after this, we're going to hear Chris's interview with Jost Capito, the Williams team principal. So you can find out probably what he thought about his new young driver, Nyck De Vries. So coming up after this, we'll hear that. And you're listening to Speed City. Back up to these messages.
Hi, this is Karun Chandok, and you're listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM.
All right, welcome back. We said we were going to hear the interview with Jost Capito, but we're going to pause that for just a moment because we've got a caller who's been holding. We've got
that yellow flag's got us held
up. Joe from Indianapolis. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you guys today?
Good. What did you think today?
It was a great race in Monza. I was glad to see Leclerc on podium after his really strong start this season. I was waiting to see when he would come back. And of course, great for him in the Italian Grand Prix to be on podium, and for Seidl to gain 14 spots. That was great.
Excellent recount. I love that you had so much detail in knowing it and following it. You've really taken off with all this. Leclerc, though, do you see this, or do you perceive what we saw with Ferrari today as maybe a turning course on their strategy missteps previous through the season?
I think it could be. Leclerc's had some really tough races and some, DNFs that were sad to see. So I hope so. It's always a good show to see Ferrari up in front. So, yeah, I hope so.
Hopefully we'll continue that. The other is, do you really think Sainz is a sign of what their strategy is accomplishing so consistently?
Well, that's the thing about Formula One, right? Consistency sometimes goes out the window. So that's why it's exciting to watch. One of the points I also wanted to bring up with you guys is that neither Aston Martin car finished today, which was too bad. I know Alonso is going to be racing for them next year. So talking about consistency, I'd like to see more consistency out of Aston Martin.
Good call. Good call. It'll be interesting how that plays out. I did get some feedback on Alonso lost water pressure in his today. So cooling sounds like it's cooling related, and who knows? Hopefully they'll get that sorted as well.
Joe, thanks a lot. We really appreciate your call, and thank you for listening. But now we are going to We still got Chris. You know what? Let's just go straight to the interview that he did with Jost Capito, Williams' principal.
Yeah, I've got Jost Capito here with me. Jost, I mean, what a result. I bet when you woke up on Saturday morning and heard you had to make a driver change, you weren't expecting to score points this weekend.
Yeah, it wasn't that clear to make a driver change yesterday morning, so we had to wait until he had the results. Alex had the results from the hospital, what it really was. So it came really, really late. So it was after 11. Then we had to make the choice, and then I think that even shows how difficult it really was for Nyck. You get it after 11. He was in the Petter Club entertaining guests, had a couple of coffees, and then say, "Okay, come down, get your helmet, get your suit, and get in the car." So, but he did an outstanding job. It's fantastic.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, what were your expectations of him today? Because obviously he started so high in 8th and stayed up there.
Yeah, you know, I know him quite for a while, and I know his capabilities, and it's exactly what I expected, what he's capable to do. That it's not that it's any short of expectations. Yeah, he did an absolute outstanding job. Jump in the car, not doing any mistake, and the cars are difficult to drive. It's so tricky, and there's so many things on so many switches, everything to learn, and he has never been in the car for long. Yeah, just an FP1 is completely different. There is no pressure, but to remember and do everything right under pressure is it's absolutely fantastic. He is I think it's not just his understanding getting in a car, it's his race intelligence. So he had to defend, he had to attack, he had to do everything, and that over a 2-hour race and his first ever race. I have a huge respect for him.
It was very impressive at his first racing pit stop. But just finally, the question that everyone's now asking: was that an audition for a race seat next year? And if it was it an impressive audition from your point of view?
But you know, as I said, he did what I expected, so I know his capabilities, and I think he just underlined his capabilities. So we'll see what his situation is. He has other commitments as well, and it's up for him to see what is possible. Of course, I know him for a while now, and we are really good friends as well. So we'll see what's happening.
Is he on the short list though?
He's always been on the short list.
Perfect. Thank you very much, and well done today.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's Jost Capito, the Williams team principal. Very happy with what Nyck De Vries did.
Hey, yeah, Chris, he avoided the question a little bit, but it's interesting to say he's such a good friend. And the other thing is him saying all of that about he knows his expectations, but throwing a driver into an F1 car that didn't know he was going to race 30 minutes before. I mean, that's above and beyond. I mean, that to me, that seems, I mean, even if you were a regular driver and did that, that's crazy.
Yeah, I was really, really impressed by the way he handled the whole situation. If you think his only real mistake was that Q2 rear locking issue that was caused by having a steering wheel he wasn't used to. He had Albons and he was used to he had Latifi, he was used to Albons. He kind of said that the way it was set up was slightly different and it caught him out. But in the race as well, it was as we were coming up to that first pit stop, or only pit stop, and I suddenly thought, he's not done one of these yet. He's not been testing where he would have got to practice normal pit stops in pre-season like any other rookie. So, okay, he's done them in Formula 2 and Formula E, but he's not done it in Formula 1, and he didn't get to practice it yesterday. He obviously didn't, the closest he would have come to would have been kind of coming to the grid. So to nail that, and the team nailed it too, to be fair to them, that set up the result because it was in such a tight battle. He was right in the middle of a group of cars. He couldn't afford for anything to go wrong.
Yeah, he had to learn the race starts as well, which is a critical part for a Formula One driver with all the complex systems, and each team has their own and so forth. Spectacular job.
Very true. And that's something, again, that in an FP1 session, they're not working on, are they? They're never going to give a rookie who's only doing FP1 sort of wasting time trying to get the clutch bite point right. Then that's just not on the list of to-do lists. So, yeah, sensational job to get those little details right, which then let him put together the rest of the race. And in such a close fight, easily those could have chipped him up and cost him points. So, yeah, as Capito said, massive respect for the way that went down.
Hey, guys, we talked about this during the break, but Brian on YouTube asked, is there any truth to Herta doing an F1 test in Budapest with Alpine before Singapore? And Brian, none of us have heard anything about that, right? Not any rumors at all, right, Chris? You haven't?
No, nothing from my end either. I will keep my ear to the ground to see if anything is said tonight. But no, I mean, for one, I wouldn't expect it to be with Alpine because obviously there's the AlphaTauri interest, which is what you'd be expecting the car to see him in if they were going to run him, but I've not heard anything on that front. I think there might have been a little whisper that he could maybe do something through Red Bull once the IndyCar season was over, if they were feeling he was going to get a chance of getting that F1 seat. So I will try and see if from either the Hertz camp or even from Red Bull, if we can get a steer on what they would plan to do with him beyond this weekend. But obviously he's got the IndyCar finale to worry about at Laguna Seca tonight. So there won't be anything to happen instantly. Let's put it that way.
Okay, here's a conspiracy theory. Alpine uses Renault power. Renault is the company that Michael Andretti's formative effort to put a Formula One team on track was dealing with as an engine supplier. So would they want to put their number one candidate as a Formula One driver from the United States into a car powered by the company that they were talking to about an engine supply for the team, if they even got one?
I love a conspiracy theory, Bob. This is so good. I mean, there's one thing to be said for that, is if you're Alpine and you're seeing what Red Bull are doing, and Helmut Marko says, you know what, you can have Pierre Gasly. He's done his time with us. We're going to have a look at this Colton Herta kid. If you're Alpine, you might go, do we want to have a look at this Colton Herta kid as well? Do we want to see if we could get him? They've been beaten up a little bit recently. That would be a PR win, which they love to do against Red Bull as well when they got Daniel Ricciardo. So I don't think that's going to happen by any stretch, but I'll just add that to the conspiracy plot.
Hey, Chris, speaking of rumors, I was watching, I think it was a video from the race, and they were talking about rumors of surface that AlphaTauri is for sale.
Well, we discussed this slightly, didn't we, in Zandvoort? Only a little bit. That what if Andretti went in to have a look at that? Heard nothing concrete at all of it being for sale, but it was, if anything, I think the lack of a Porsche deal with Red Bull suggests not for sale, because otherwise Red Bull would have been, essentially if Dr. Mateschitz was looking at scaling down his operation and interest in Formula One, then he had a chance to do that with the Porsche tie-up. And if that hasn't gone forward, that just suggests to me that AlphaTauri is not for sale. But who knows? I mean, I think that might have stemmed from some interest in a potential Honda takeover of AlphaTauri if the Porsche deal had happened. And that's how kind of Red Bull kept two power unit manufacturers kind of involved. And they hedged their bets a little bit. So they'd kind of sell to Honda, and Honda would come in as a full constructor, or it would be an AlphaTauri Honda with a lot of investment. So I think that was just, a slightly tabled idea. Again, unlikely to happen now with the Porsche moves. And I don't think Honda are going to make that jump anyway. But I think that might have been where potentially it would have stemmed from and rumbled.
Well, it's also worth noting, and Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been an open secret that AlphaTauri was available in the proper circumstance to sale. I mean, that's gone on for a couple of years now. If you wanted to buy a team, Red Bull would listen to offload AlphaTauri. But as we've learned from the Porsche experience, that willingness to sell only goes so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they've got to. They're always going to look at it when you have two teams, especially now with where Formula One's gone. If you can make a huge profit out of it and the right owner comes in, maybe they'd be open to it. And at the time where they didn't have a huge conveyor belt of young talent ready to go, it's not like it was clear which young Red Bull Junior was going to be next in that seat. They've kind of been treading water slightly for a couple of years on that front. So, yeah, I can see that they would have entertained discussions if anyone wanted to come and talk to them. But I think most teams on the grid would now, because they'd want to know their value, and their value is high.
Nice. All right, gentlemen, we are going to take a quick pause, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the driver of the day. I bet everybody can guess that one. And we're going to we got a caller. We got Trevor from Jacksonville holding, so we're going to take his call. You're listening to Speed City. Back after these messages.
Hi, this is Gene Haas, and this is Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM.
CrowdStrike presents Driven in 60. Our digital world is more than just interconnected, it's interdependent. And because of that, security is a top concern for every organization. The Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team knows they're a potential target for a host of digital attacks, which is why they leverage the CrowdStrike Falcon platform to deploy end-to-end security solutions. CrowdStrike revolutionized cybersecurity by harnessing the speed and power of the cloud to identify and stop the most sophisticated cyber attacks. Our cloud-native Falcon platform protects and defends organizations against increasingly complex threats, so you can have the peace of mind to focus on your business momentum, not what's trying to stop it. That's protection that powers you. To learn more and to try CrowdStrike Falcon free today, visit crowdstrike.com/XM. We're going to go to our caller in just a moment, but I got a couple of comments that I want to jump in here real quick. Frank on YouTube says, Nyck De Vries gives a new meaning to cars and coffee by going from hospitality in the car. Amazing job. Such a great story. I like that. TW says, I bet Andretti buys Alpha and has Herta in a seat with help from Helmut Marko and Red Bull Racing. So, yeah, we talked about that a little bit, TW, but not the buying Alpha part. So that would be interesting. All right, so we have a couple of callers holding. We're going to go first out to Trevor from Jacksonville. Hey, Trevor, how are you?
Hey, how's it going? First time calling in. My father's been begging me to call you guys for months. I think he just likes hearing me talk. But I feel like something that's not, it should start to be getting discussed is Carlos Sainz. Like, we all know what the pecking order at the Ferrari driver roster is. But when you look past all of the Charles Leclerc, whether it be failures or strategy call drama, look at what Carlos has done, especially when he started at the back of the grid multiple times and how much he's fought and finished almost in the podium at all those times. Think of all the times he's gone against team orders and how well it worked out for him, how many times he's questioned them, and we saw how it would play out. I just think, at what point does Carlos start thinking, F this? And, I think maybe he's better than just a second-rate driver. I want to know you guys' thoughts on that.
What do you think, Bob?
Well, clearly Carlos Sainz is a front-ranked driver. He is no number two, but there are two drivers, and there has to be some priority in how things play out. As for Carlos becoming dissatisfied, if that's what you're suggesting, and jumping ship, as it were, I don't think there's any chance of that at all. Every driver on the grid, my old colleague Steve Matchett used to say, every driver on the grid, no matter his situation, wants to be a Ferrari driver at some point. Their image just is that broad and deep. So I think Carlos Sainz is right where he wants to be right now. At the British Grand Prix, we heard him getting upset with the team about them trying to find ways to reverse the positions of their car and put Charles Leclerc up ahead. And Carlos basically said, no, let's not do that. I can win this race. And he did from pole. So hopefully there is no doubt in the minds of anybody at Ferrari that they have two terrific drivers. And as you were framing your question, right, I was thinking, I don't know if we've had this many strong driver lineups in Formula One in a very long time. Hamilton and Russell, Leclerc and Sainz, Verstappen and Perez, and the list goes on and on. I mean, Norris and Ricciardo. Ricciardo's not having a good time with the car, but he is a multiple Grand Prix winner, including Monaco and Monza. So he is definitely worthy of that kind of consideration. Ocon and Alonso, and it goes on and on and on. The talent on the Formula One grid right now may be the best it's ever been.
Hey, Trevor, let me ask you a question. Are you coming to Austin to the United States Grand Prix?
I mean, I think there's something going on there around my birthday. If I had a reason to, I'd like to.
Well, what about a pair of tickets? Maybe one for you and your dad winning from Speed City.
Is this a joke?
Nope. I am.
That's a valid question.
He calls this regularly, and he told me a few weeks ago y'all were doing this and to try and call it. Like, this isn't a joke?
No, sir. You, if you want to go, these tickets, a pair of tickets are yours.
That would be awesome. I'm sure he's listening right now. Corvette Mike, I guess you and me are going to the race.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, Trevor, thank you for calling. Wow. Thank you for listening. Congrats on the tickets. Hang on and let us get your information. Don't hang up so we can get your phone number, and we'll get you hooked up with a pair of tickets.
Oh, I certainly won't. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to give the producer time to get his info before we take the next caller. But Bob, to your point, you could keep going. I mean, look at what Magnussen's done this year. And I mean, hey, Casey, we can hear you. We can hear you on the line, Casey. Sorry.
There you go.
He's getting his info. But,
that's the second time he's done that. I'm worried about Casey.
That's good.
I know we get to give him a hard time. He's a flawless producer, but with everybody in different places today. But yeah,
all these knuckleheads he has to deal with,
and all the
pointing
technology.
at us.
Yeah, I love it. Mike Bowles on YouTube says, "Woohoo!" I think he's happy for Trevor to win a pair of tickets. We're also, you know what? We're gonna give away at least one more pair of tickets. And there's another way you can win. You can go to speedcitybroadcast.com/win. And we're going to choose, and you can sign up on our email list. And we don't email very often. In fact, hardly ever. But anyway, you can sign up there and win get a chance to win a possible set of tickets. But while Casey's getting that, let's check in with Chris Medland, see what's going on out in Monza. How's it going, Chris?
It's going well. I'm loitering to see if I can speak to a few more people. But one thing that has been developing is that Nyck De Vries had to go to see the stewards because he was summoned for allegedly driving erratically during the race. So they're looking into, I'm not sure on the exact moment. I didn't see anything on the footage on the world feed, but obviously there's a lot of racing that goes on that we don't see live. So they're looking into that. He had to go see the stewards. It would have been 9 minutes ago. But now he's already back doing interviews. I'm going to try and grab him in a sec as well when he's done with a few TV interviews. But he was only there for a matter of moments and straight back down. So whatever it was, he obviously had a clear explanation that he was attempting to put across. Whether that's going to be good enough for the stewards, we'll have to wait and see. And it would be such a shame if his debut saw him lose out on points that it looked like he was going to win. Because, of course, any time penalty now, because we've finished behind a safety car, would be hugely damaging. It would drop him miles back. So fingers crossed that is not going to happen. But I'll have to keep an eye out and see if I can grab him at some stage to ask him his opinion. In fact, I can see him right now. And you wouldn't be surprised to find out he is very, very popular. I think everyone wants a...
Maybe the stewards just wanted an autograph.
yeah, exactly. That was it. They were probably wondering in that case whether they could grab one, because it was a very impressive drive, and he'll probably be around for a while. But I'm not going to be able to get into this scrum right now with him, but I'll find out at some point before we're off air what the incident was at least, and hopefully before you're off air we'll even have a decision if they're quick about it.
Well, that would be a real bummer. And of course, he was the driver of the day. Not that I even had to look that up, but that was exciting. But all right, we have another caller holding. We have Brian in North Dakota. It's Brian. It's probably like Bob. Bob, I'm jealous because you're wearing a coat. Brian, are you having to wear a coat today also?
Good morning. It's Bryn. It is. It's not Brian. It's Bryn. I've called a few times.
Oh,
from Canada.
I'm sorry, Bryn.
That's okay. I know everybody thinks it's Brian, but yeah, Bryn. Yeah, no, I got to have a coat on today. It's a bit nippy up here, but I'm on the way to going down to California, so it'll warm up as I get further south.
So what do you think of the race today?
I enjoyed it, actually. I hope Nyck doesn't get penalised, because obviously that's driver of the day, but being an expat, obviously I'm a Lewis fan, and I think if it wasn't for Nyck, I think Lewis should have been in for driver of the day as well, plus Sainz. But yeah, it was a good race. Unfortunately, it finished on a safety car again. Why didn't it finish on a safety car last year? So Lewis could have had his 8th, but there you go. Don't want to bring that up again.
But you will.
Good point, though.
Yep. Yes.
It's valid. Yeah.
I'm guessing you're not a native North Dakotan, Bryn.
No.
Where are you from?
From Wales originally, but I live in Canada now. I'm a truck driver. So
nice.
That's why I'm calling you. That's how I'm calling you from all over the country. I think last time I was in Manitoba, but this time, in North Dakota. But yeah, I just want to say thank you for your show, because I lost touch with Grand Prix until last year. And it's your show that got me back into it, so I really appreciate you. And I love listening to you. I don't get a chance to watch you very often being on the road. So thank you so much.
Well, Bryn, thank you.
absolutely.
I really,
Thank you.
that's very nice. I'm glad we helped get you back into the sport. We appreciate you listening. But hey, Chris Medland, I see your mic is unmuted. What's happening?
That was more for Bryn, actually. I want to say thank you to Bryn because I'm from Somerset, which is over just across the Bristol Channel from Wales. So it was a familiar accent that I was hearing. So I was like, thanks to Bryn for bringing that. I feel like I'm at home again, even though I'm in the middle of Italy. But
As long as you don't start speaking Welsh, which is totally unintelligible to people like us.
I'm terrible. I never managed to learn any Welsh. I'm not sure if Bryn did as well. So
Oh, well,
we'll have
yucky
to ask him
da.
that. Next time he's on, we'll have to see if Bryn speaks Welsh and learn a few words. We'll try and learn some F1 parlance. Well, that's a word I've never used before. I didn't even know I knew that in English. But yes, I'm waiting for Nyck De Vries to see if we can speak to him in a sec. So I will jump back in when we get him.
As Jonathan and I like to say, that's a $50 word you're using.
Yeah, well, stay with us, Chris. We'll raise your game.
There you go.
And I apologize to Bryn. The producer was in my ear saying it 3 times. It's Bryn, and I kept saying Brian. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm sure it's not the first time it's happened to him.
Yeah, he said that. All right, you know what? Let's take this advantage of this and let's get a quick break in. And when we come back, we'll see who else Chris can drag up and more from Bob Varsha and the gang here. Back after this.
Hi guys, this is Pierre Gasly and you're listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM.
Go, Chris Medland.
Hello, everyone. I've got Nyck De Vries here with me, and he's just explaining in Dutch what went on because, as I mentioned, he was summoned to the stewards, which is the down point. We're going to get out of the way quickly. You were summoned to talk about erratic driving. Can you explain what went on there?
Yeah, I think it should be fine. It was very obvious, actually. Obviously, when the safety car is deployed, you need to respect the delta for 2 laps. And exit turn 2, we were talking about a front right brake issue because I had a very long pedal and the temperatures were through the roof. And I saw my delta dropping, so I was like, "Oh no, I'm illegal here." So I braked, and then I got the message, close the gap to the safety car. So there was just a bit of a miscommunication.
Well, fingers crossed that everyone who's around is hoping that there's no penalty for this one. I don't think even any rivals want a penalty after the drive you just done. I mean, the smile on your face is massive. You must be so proud of yourself today.
I'm just so grateful and happy. I really kind of enjoyed it, which is, rare and difficult because when there is pressure, when there are nerves, it's hard to enjoy the moment. But for some reason I managed to do it. And I'm just thankful for the opportunity. And I'm happy that we grabbed it with both hands because no one can take this away from us. And this was a dream debut.
I mean, when you woke up on Saturday morning, could you even imagine that you then Sunday evening, I mean, talking to us a lot, sorry about that, but with 2 points to your name as an F1 driver?
Not at all. I mean, I left the track with the engineers at Mercedes after my FP1 at like 11 o'clock because I just wanted to get involved how their Friday was, and only went to bed at like midnight. So normally I like to be in bed early, but in hindsight, I would have liked to sleep earlier. But I think it was almost a good thing that there was no time because it doesn't allow you to think and you just have to get on with the job. And that's what we did.
I bet you were thinking a lot on the grid, though. Well, how were the nerves when the lights went out?
I mean, I did 2 practice starts yesterday. I couldn't do any practice starts this morning because we had to change gearboxes. So it was a bit of a mess. I mean, I would have liked to have more time. And it's Nicky's wheel, which has much bigger hands and, a different kind of, hand position than me. But it was kind of good enough. It wasn't great, but it was good enough to maintain position.
Well, I heard that you weren't particularly comfortable with the car either yesterday. I mean, with where the shoulder straps were and the changes had to be made overnight. And then team radio at the end of the race said your shoulders are dead. How are they feeling now?
They are recovering slowly, but when the safety car came out, they just went in spasm. Literally, I couldn't move them. Yeah.
Mate, that sounds very, very tough. I mean, you got a lot of fans in America. You obviously have tested an IndyCar, but I know your dream is to race in Formula One. And do you think you've shown today that you're worthy of a place on the seat and hope that Williams will give you a full-time ride?
I don't think I'm misplaced here at the grid.
Well, it's certainly not. And well done, Nyck. We hope we see you again next year.
Thank you. Thank you.
There we go, Nyck De Vries with a big, big smile on his face. And he's nearly talked more than he's driven this weekend because as soon as qualifying ended, obviously that was a good performance. Everyone wanted to speak to him. And now how long are we after the race? more than an hour, and he's still doing interviews. So, he's done a lot of talking this weekend, but he did some great talking on the track as well.
He is such his English is so good. I imagine in addition to his native Dutch, he probably speaks several other languages too. And I am utterly intimidated by people like that.
Yeah, he is very, very smart. You're right. I think I've heard him speaking. He was doing Dutch just before we did that interview. He'd done a little bit of German, I think, as well. He speaks German. I didn't catch it, but there may have been some Italian in his lingo as well. So, a very, very smart guy who's he's gonna do well here if he does get a seat. But we don't have many seats, and we know it's not always done on talent, is it? So, dare I say it as well? I think he's 27, Nick. He's been waiting a long time for his chance. And as we've been talking about, Colton maybe having a go at 22. Some teams will be looking at maybe younger drivers. So I'll tell you, this could have been a huge weekend for him to really force home the issue that he really deserves that ride.
Yeah, and it did sound like he was optimistic though about being summoned to the stewards.
Yeah, I before we started that interview as well, as I said, he was talking to one of the Dutch journalists, so it was all it was off record as such, but he was very relaxed chatting about it. And yeah, with the hand gestures, he was saying the same thing. He seemed very calm and kind of waved it away. So I think more likely than not, there'll probably be a warning or maybe a reprimand, just to say, look, that shouldn't happen, but it didn't affect anyone's race. Nobody was losing positions because of it. Nobody was going to find themselves sort of dropping into trouble. It was all behind the safety car where nothing went wrong, essentially. So I think he should be safe on that front. But as I check my emails and walk and talk, there's been nothing in yet.
I was doing exactly the same thing.
I'm going to say at the age of 27, if all things were equal, and I've got a 22-year-old young man and a 27-year-old man, I tend to think of the frontal cortex development and how the 27-year-old is usually considered a little more stable, a little more mature than a 22-year-old. That might bode well for him.
Well, yeah. I mean, today proves it, doesn't it? Like, he dealt with that pressure so well. I mean, there was so many questions I could have asked him even more, but like he said, he was okay with the start. He pulled that off, even though so much was sort of against him and imperfect. But then if you look at the fact that he was running in traffic the whole way through, managing tires, he couldn't burn up his tires because he did the soft medium strategy, which is probably the toughest one to do today. All of that together, he dealt with it calmly and executed it on his debut, even though he knew kind of what was at stake. So that's where you kind of go. I was always expecting at some point it to go wrong. I thought late on he was coming under pressure from Joe, and he may well drop back and get overtaken and lose a place or two. But he could gather himself up and go again. And I think that showed great maturity. So like you say, if you're a Williams and you're not going to get that many opportunities to score points, then it is a more experienced driver that you're probably going to want to have in there to make sure they do take advantage of those opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Hey guys, I was just looking at the at today's results, and Mick Schumacher ahead of Kevin Magnussen again, but we just haven't talked about the Haas team at all, hardly. And they're really struggling right now. And it's, we had such high hopes, especially we talked about Ferrari doing so good at the beginning of the year. Magnussen came out of the gate just on fire. What did he finish? 5th in the opening round of the season? And I'm like, they just really haven't been able to do anything since then.
Well, it kind of reinforces what we say about Formula One all the time, that if you're not getting better, you're falling back. If you're not in that extra hot crucible of research and development and making the car better and getting better as a team, you're going to get left for dead. You're going to get passed because everybody else is going to be improving.
Yeah, and we kept hearing they were bringing upgrades. Chris, I mean, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so the upgrade they brought for Hungary that they first ran it was their biggest one for a number of years. But at the same time, they didn't go overboard with what they tried to achieve with it. They wanted to make sure it improved the car in high-speed corners, I'm told, rather than then try and chase downforce that would work in medium and low speed as well and kind of get confused if it worked in some areas and not in others. They focused on one type of performance upgrade. And that has generally worked, but as Bob says, everyone else is upgrading their cars a lot as well. And they haven't brought anything since. I'm trying to remember from their list that came out this week, and I don't think they even had a specific wing change here. It was just they did it all on setup. So you can kind of see how Haas it's still a big step forward, isn't it, from last year? Gunther Steiner actually said before this weekend's race in his preview that he thinks the team is better placed for next year's car because they've got a year of maturity with their technical setup at Maranello, where Ferrari's HQ is, but they've got their technical team there that designed the car. And they think from kind of learning what went wrong this year in terms of difficulties or challenges they faced while doing that design, that for next year, they're in a better place. So that bodes well as well. If they can make another step with next year's car, that would be good. I think part of it, though, comes down to the drivers. I mean, I'm hearing that Kevin Magnussen is pushing for a more experienced teammate in there alongside him rather than Mick Schumacher. As much as Schumacher's had some highs, it's when you need a driver that, if you look at the way Magnussen and Grosjean worked together, they did push Haas forward, even when they did sometimes have their moments against each other or weren't in the most competitive shape. Their experience helped guide the team. And I think Magnussen feels like it's all on his shoulders at the moment. And if he starts off on the wrong foot on a Friday, then it's not like the other car or other driver is definitely going to be getting it right and they can meet in the middle. It's like he feels like he's doing all the work. So I have heard that he'd like to see a bit more experience in there, which would help them find some more consistency.
Yep. Bob, what do you know about the Lorenzo Bandini trophy that Kevin Magnussen won apparently this week? Are you familiar with that one?
I'm familiar with Lorenzo Bandini. I'm not sure what the trophy represents.
I saw that and I didn't. Chris, are you familiar with this award?
I am. Yeah, I am. So it's awarded to a driver or team for their performances in motorsport over the previous year and their attitude towards racing. So not necessarily results, but basically the way they go about their racing. And it's an Italian media or racing media award, I believe. And it was last awarded to, I'm racking my brain now, it might have been Valtteri Bottas the year before, but Charles Leclerc's won it, Lewis Hamilton's won it a number of times. I believe Mercedes have won it as a team. Jacques Villeneuve, I think, was a winner of it. David Coulthard was a winner of it. It goes back to, it was the early 90s they started it. And named after Lorenzo Bandini, who obviously was an Italian racing driver who lost his life in the 60s. And it's a big accolade because it kind of shows the respect that the wider racing world has, certainly here in Europe as well. If you don't, can't forget that Kevin went across to racing sports cars and racing in the US, and we didn't actually see that much of him here in Europe. But they were so impressed with what he did there, keeping his career alive, and then the comeback, I believe, with having that 5th place in Bahrain. So all that together meant that he won the trophy this year. So it's a prestigious thing. And I think drivers really like it because it's not about who's got the quickest car, who's, otherwise it would be Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen would have won it every year for the last 10 years or something. It's about the wider picture. And that level of respect is something they really, really like to get.
That's good. And sorry, Bob.
Yeah, congratulations to him.
I've just never asked you a question, especially about historical things you didn't know the answer to. So that's why I just
now we
naturally came to you first. But
I'll take that as a compliment.
There it is. Yes,
that's a good save, right? Good save. Well, hey, I also want to talk about the Formula One USGP that's coming here to Austin, because we're going to do some special things for the show out at COTA this year. We're still working on all those details. The special thing is that we're thinking about being able to be out in the crowd for some of the weekend, broadcasting live. So we'll see how all that goes. So, but I wanted to tease that a little bit. We'll find out more details. Bob, your eyebrows went up. And I know you're planning on coming, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah.
Is that the first Bob heard about it?
Yeah.
Well, I knew about the race. I knew there was something going on out there, but no, I wasn't sure about these advanced plans for all kinds of.
Austin, Texas, baby.
There you go.
There you go. All this engagement with our fans out there, which is really exciting. And I hope we can do that and maybe get some sponsors together and get out there in the public and talk Formula One with folks who may or may not have heard the show before. So
all right.
let's do it.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We are out of time. Thanks, Chris Medland. Thanks, Bob Varsha, Les Kaiser, Jonathan Green. We'll see you at the next race. And we'll talk to you guys. We'll be on next Sunday night. Don't forget.
Yaki da, y'all.
Cheers.